The things that you want to look at to make sure that the ad is kind of performing right off the bat is going to be your click-through rate, your cost per click, and you can look at the cost per thousand. So that's CTR, CPC, and CPM. And so I'm going to explain to you how each of those works and what you need to be looking at and what you need to be looking for in order to make sure that you're not just like spending money randomly, willy-nilly, hoping that it goes eventually to start working. So I started a new campaign this week, and it is a conversion campaign for a purchase. So basically it goes from a Facebook conversion ad to a landing page, a sales page where people have an opportunity to make a purchase from me for a low ticket offer. And so it's a stage 2 ad. Basically, stage 1 was an awareness ad, and then stage 2 is where I started to run my conversion ad. So with this ad, having first turned it on, of course, in order for you to be able to feed it enough for it to get a conversion, you do need to make sure that your budget matches that. So you're spending quite a bit of money on the first couple of days. And so it's very tempting to be nervous about that and to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, waste any money, spend any money. That's not going to come back to me. But you do have to let that thing ride. Okay. Let Facebook actually start to sort out and find your buyers for you. But on that first day, right, you do want to monitor a couple of things to make sure that this ad has the ability and has the starting momentum to be able to pick up and to make some sales for you at some point, right? So the things that you want to look at to make sure that the ad is kind of performing right off the bat is going to be your click-through rate, your cost per click, and you can look at the cost per thousand. So that's CTR, CPC, and CPM. And so I'm going to explain to you how each of those works and what you need to be looking at and what you need to be looking for in order to make sure that you're not just like spending money randomly, willy-nilly, hoping that it goes eventually to start working. So first of all, let's start out with the very first things that you want to look at. Now on day 1, within the first 24 hours, I'm not going to make any changes in the middle of the day. I literally, even if I'm going to waste $300, I'm going to waste that $300 because I need to know. I need to recognize, I need to have enough data to be able to make a decision. You have to have data. And so the data that you want to be looking at first is going to be your click-through rate. And so the click-through rate, I'm going to go ahead and say, is probably the most important indicator, especially on day 1, because it is letting you know if people are even showing some kind of interest in your ad, in your offer, in the way you've positioned it, in your headline, in your creative. Like, have you presented something that is intriguing enough that people are willing to click through to your sales page to find out more, right? And if not, there's a couple of things that you might need to look at and to change, and that is not going to improve just by letting it run for longer. So on this particular ad that I started running, right, it was getting like initially a pretty decent click-through rate. And what you really want to see is a 1 to 2% click-through rate. Okay. So for every 100 people that see your ad, you want 1 to 2 people to be clicking on it and going through. And that is considered good. That is standard. That is amazing. In fact, 2% is super amazing. Okay. So even if you're just getting 1%, you can say, okay, this is a decent ad. This is working. The people who I'm showing this to are interested. If not, if you're not getting that click-through rate, there's a couple things you need to look at. Definitely always check your text on your ad. Ideally your headline, only the headline appears on Facebook. But, is it opening in a loop? Is it drawing people in? Do they have a reason to click, right? To go to your sales page? Of course, the creative, the visual part of your ad is the first thing that they see just because it's the largest part. So is that intriguing enough? If it's just an image or a graphic, is it something that is going to stop the scroll that people would actually, is your face in it? Or if it's just text, are the words intriguing enough to get somebody to stop and want to learn more? So you have to be thinking about that. People can't buy from you if they never make it to your sales page, right? So it's really important to look at that. Not only that, but if people aren't clicking on your ad and showing no interest, Facebook is going to assume that this isn't a really good ad, that people aren't really interested in it, and they're not going to show it quite as much, okay? So the next part of that is going to be your cost per click. So your cost per click just basically says how much money did you spend, by the time someone clicked on it. So for that, you also want to see $1 to $2. $1 per click, I mean, you could rule the world with that, right? But even $2 is decent. And when I say $2 in the world of two, so even if it's $2.22, right? Live with that. That's still good. That's fine. So on this particular ad, probably by the evening time, I had like a $5 click-through rate. And when it was all said and done, I mean, a $5 cost per click, and the click-through rate it was less than 1%. It was probably about 0.58, so about 0.5%. And I just thought, dang, that's not good. Even though I did make a sale on that ad, it shocked me because it started out with a stronger rate at that point earlier in the day. So I was like, okay, let me first make sure that my offer is even good. The offer is the first and foremost biggest thing that you need to keep in mind. Like, am I even offering something that people want? People aren't going to click on an amazing ad if they don't want what you're trying to promote and what you're trying to sell. So thankfully, I did get enough clicks through to my sales page to recognize that and to make a sale. And that page actually converted at 2%, at 1.8%. So your sales conversion rate, average is going to be between 1 and 3%. And the fact that I was at 1.8 let me know that my actual offer, what I was actually selling, and the people who got there really had a good interest in it. And my sales page copy and all of that was strong enough to drive a sale, and it went really well. So I knew that piece was good, that I had a good offer, and that the people who did finally make it there were the right people and were interested, right? So ultimately, I needed to go back and see what was going on with my ad. So before I just assume that the ad was terrible, what I want you to think about is, where's this ad being delivered? Like, where is this messing up? At what point are people not clicking on this ad, or in which placements are people clicking on this ad the most? Because at this point, now that I know that page converts, I want to drive as many clicks to that page at the lowest cost possible so that I can be profitable, right? So I opened up my ads reporting, and I sorted it out just so I could see, where the clicks were coming from, the impressions and the click-through rate and the cost. Like, where is it that I could do better? Now, I did make a mistake on my ad, and I found it. And thank God that I just didn't throw it all away and just say, oh, let me just scrap this ad and start over. You have to dig deep and look at everything before you make any changes, especially in the first 24 hours. I usually don't make recommendations to make a change in the first 24 to 48 hours. But at this point, because my click-through rate was so low, I was like, I can't ignore that. Like 0.5%, come on now. I got to do better than that, because I'm pumping in lots of money into this. So when I opened it up, I saw that there was one particular placement, which I never even placed stuff here, okay? But it was the Instagram business explore page, or explore home, Instagram explore home page. My God, it was feeding so many impressions there. Now, the impressions were super cheap. It wasn't charging me a lot for it to show my ad in that placement. It wasn't charging me a lot. But because there were so many impressions there and very few people, if any, were clicking there, it was driving my click-through rate down. So it was looking like, hey, we showed your ad to all these people and no one's clicking. Yeah. On the Instagram Explore, what are you saying? Like, no one's clicking on ads there. I don't click on ads there. If you click on an ad there, it's definitely an accident, okay? Because it looks interesting and you click on it trying to look at it, but not because you actually want to know more about that product or service. You have no idea what it is. So I needed to eliminate that, and that is what I did. And I actually eliminated a lot of placements, again, because I made a mistake and I did automatic placements for the conversion ad, which I don't do. I specifically choose where I want my conversion ad to be shown for the best results. And I teach that in Fast Track Facebook ads, where you can actually learn how to set up your conversion ads for either leads or for sales. So that's down in the description. But when I realized I made that mistake, I was like, okay, that's huge. So I went back and I had 4 ads running. So I eliminated 2 ads that really weren't getting a lot of a lot of my budget fed to it anyway, and I could really kind of decipher, okay, I can see how the messaging in these two ads is a lot better. So I eliminated those other two and really just simplified it down to two. But I didn't change the ad. I did not change anything about the ads because the ads that were working were getting good clicks at a good rate. So when you go into your ads reporting, really analyze it and say, in certain placements, this ad is actually doing really well, right? So maybe I need to show it there. And that is specifically why I only put conversion ads in certain placements. So when that click-through rate, when I looked at the click-through rate in my most prized placements, it was doing really well. I was getting about $1.49 to $2.50 cost per click, and my click-through rate was between 1% and 2%. So I changed it. I changed the ad placement instead of the actual ad creative. So when we talk about changing your ad, it doesn't always have to be to switch up what's going on with the ad. You really need to look closely at it to see, well, what is working, what's not, and where is it working. But the very first things that stand out to people are going to be the graphic and the text, right, before they even click through to your sales page. So you have to be able to do that to get enough clicks to the sales page to even make a sale. So now that that has been switched, then immediately the very next day, I saw a purchase before I could even check my data. So I was like, okay, this is good. Like it was making my conversion rate even better because now my clicks are going to happen in the right placements where it's really going to people who are truly interested in what I have to sell and who are truly interested in making that purchase. So ultimately now I can retarget the people who did click through to my sales page but did not yet purchase because I know that they are responding to a very clear message. So the click-through rate and the cost per click are super important. Now in terms of the cost per thousand, how much did it cost to show your ad to 1,000 people? And you might find where some people say that this number is super important. And really the cost per thousand really just indicates how exciting your ad is, right? It costs less. If you have a super engaging ad, it costs less to show your ad to more people. It will ultimately impact your cost per click because it's going to cost less to show it to more people. But the cost per thousand and the cost per click, to me, are way secondary than the click-through rate because no matter how much you're paying for people to click, the point is, are they clicking, right? So whether I paid $80 for 1,000 people to see my ad or whether I paid $40 for 1,000 people to see my ad, no matter how much I paid, out of those 1,000 people, did 2% of them click? That's important. That shows that they're actually interested when they do finally see my ad. So if you are looking to improve your ad, that is where you want to start. But improving your ad does not always mean changing what's in the ad. Sometimes it's looking to make sure that you've put it in the right placement so that it can perform the best. And that doesn't mean to eliminate all bad placements. I literally have a very specific place where I put conversion ads because that's just where people are in the mindset to actually click and take action. That whole be everywhere all the time with your ads, that's great for retargeting, okay, for the people who came through because then now you just want to get back in front of them. But if you want them to take that initial action, like upon first seeing that you have something to offer, you don't need to be everywhere. You need to be in very specific placements where it encourages people to take the action that you want, which is either to opt into your lead magnet or your webinar or book a call or to make a purchase from you. And you need to use those conversion placements correctly in order to get the best conversions. I'm Amber McDuffie, and I help course creators, coaches, and consultants to use Facebook ads to grow their business.